Hello there, my name is Ismas. Welcome to Blender 2.8 Tips for Beginners. This is tip number 4, spicing up your viewport, or basically what we're going to be looking at, viewport shading. So I have this scene here. You can see it's a very grayscale looking scene. It's not very inspiring. It has a lot of objects there and you would expect it to look good. Even in the viewport, you don't really need to have it rendered for it to look good. And I find that when you're working in a scene and the scene looks beautiful, it kind of gives you inspiration to continue working on that project. So let's look at how to spice up this scene so that it looks better, even in the viewport while we are working on it. So up here you have a few shading types. We have the first one, which is just wireframe. We don't want that. We have the shading we are looking at. You have textured here. This will just show you the textures that are in your scene. So whenever you see this purple color here, it usually indicates that the texture there, the image texture that is supposed to go there is missing. So you can go and find that texture. So wooden flow, let me go to shading mode. A shading mode is where you find the nodes and everything are set up for your materials. So you can find here. So this is supposed to be the image. Let's find textures. I'll just put anything there just for now. And you can see we have a texture that is loaded in. So this is just showing you the textures that you have loaded in, plus materials on top of them. So if you go to this is the shading mode of the Eevee renderer. So you can see we have lights, we have textures there. But when you're still working on the modeling part, this can be a bit destructive. You have textures everywhere. You just want to look at the clay mode, but with a bit of detail there. So if you go to the shading bit here, you click on that, you'll get these shading options. You can turn on cavity. This will give a highlight to the edges of your scene, of every object here. And right now it's a bit toned down, so we can come in and increase it a bit. So you can see around here you see that shading. And if we add, let's say, a cube, this easily show you what I'm talking about. So you can increase the ridge or cavity. See, it just gives a highlight to the edges. From that, we also have valley. This is just like fake ambient occlusion, and you can see. But every object is still a plain color, and we don't want to go to texture mode to see these textures because they're too much. They're kind of destructive when you still just trying to figure out the placement of objects, or just setting up the scene. Let's see if this texture is still there. So the option you can turn on so that every object is different from the other. If you go to shading mode here, you can turn on random materials or random colors, so that each object you're working on, each object in the scene has a different color, and you can easily differentiate the different objects you have. But if we are just in material, you see some of the objects are not really easy to tell apart from the other objects in the scene. So this is a good setting to turn on when you're trying to work, just to have an easy to look at scene. Let's see. Last time we created a stadium, and I think this this really would bring that, what I'm trying to point out here, much better. So let's see if I can find that stadium. Let's see, stadium 2. See, this is the stadium we did, and without those settings it would look something like, okay, so I think I made this in a different version of Blender. Also, the shadings are down here, so if you don't see them up here, you can find them below here. So without those random colors, this would look very plain like this. But when we turn on random colors and turn on cavity and increase the ambient occlusion, you can start seeing some of the detail that we have in our field. Yeah, so that's how you can beautify your scene a bit so that it inspires you more to work on.